us to do.
Open your eyes!
Sylvie did quite a number on the sacred timeline. With the timeline branching in every which way and a multiverse war on the horizon, Spider-Man will need all the help he can get. The Spider Sense, or Peter-Tingle, one of his greatest abilities, will surely come in handy in the upcoming fight against the villains from other dimensions like Doctor Octopus or Electro. With that being said, there's a slight chance that his Spider Sense might not work on those two, since the other universes don't follow the exact same rules. So for today's video, let's explore the mysterious power that lies within every Spidey and see what secrets we can unveil. Let's get going.
That was awesome!
While the Spider Sense is more often than not seen as a way to dodge incoming projectiles such as bullets or warn Peter about nearby threats, it has another helpful ability that was featured in the MCU when Peter fought Mysterio in Far From Home.
Come on, Peter-Tingle.
His Spider Sense can help him navigate if, for a reason or another, he's blinded. In the comic book Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, Spidey was blinded by the villain Masked Marauder and had to rely on his Spider Sense and Daredevil's help to navigate in a now dark world. In the same volume, he had to completely rely on this special skill to disarm a bomb he latched onto in the air. Without Spider Sense, Peter would probably have been blown to smithereens. If Matt Murdock really is set to appear in the MCU, this would be the perfect moment for Peter to learn from him. That is, if time permits, among the multiverse mess that's about to happen. The tingle that Peter feels whenever danger is coming his way has saved his life over and over and over again. And to be honest, he might have started to rely on it a little too much. The problem with it is he can't always totally rely on it. So going on autopilot mode during fights or even as he's taking a walk in New York City might not be the best idea.
I'm really sorry. What?
His total reliance on Spider Sense met an abrupt end when Venom first appeared in the comic books. Turns out symbiotes are immune to this particular skill.
They never triggered my Spider Sense.
So for the first time in his superhero career, Spider-Man was taken off guard. If Sony and Disney can agree on including the symbiote into the MCU, Venom or any other symbiote-based villain could make for a powerful and threatening villain against Tom Holland's Spidey. Here's hoping. The Spider Sense is friend and family friendly. What I mean by that is that it won't alert him to the presence of people he loves and trusts. No alarm goes off whatsoever, which makes MJ or Aunt May capable of giving Peter scare jumps.
Oh yeah, I was cleaning the chimney.
Just like that time Aunt May caught Peter in his spider suit at the end of Homecoming. They did scream some words I won't mention here because we keep it family friendly here at CBR, or at least we try. Another good example of that is MJ finding out he's Spider-Man in Far From Home.
MJ,
I'm Spider-Man.
Or actually, maybe a little bit before that, and telling him how not so subtle he is.
Kind of obvious.
In some ways, Spidey's a little bit like Iron Man in terms of being awful at hiding his secret identity.
I am Iron Man.
Okay, fine, Tony did not really try to hide when he was telling the whole world, but is Peter even trying? Not hard enough, it seems. Since the Spider Sense works in a specific wavelength and is a frequency that only he seems to be catching,
Anybody else's Spider Sense tingling?
we'll get more confirmation on that as Spideys from various universes come pouring into the MCU. It can also tap into their wavelengths. He does that in the comics using a pretty handy device he calls the Spider Tracers. Originally used to keep tabs on Doctor Octopus when he was released from prison, he eventually used Spider Tracers that he would stick to his enemies, and later on lock onto the frequency using his Spider Sense. This allowed him to realize that the closer he got to the tracker, the more his Spider Sense would react, pinpointing him towards the villain he was chasing. As Peter Parker's about to get lost in the multiverse of madness, these little fellows might be a good way to keep track of his and his allies' location. Superheroes losing their powers temporarily is often used for character development. While this happened to Thor when he couldn't lift Mjolnir in his 2011 film, the only thing that came close to it for Peter in the MCU so far is getting his Stark-engineered spider suit taken away by Daddy Stark for a little bit during the events of Homecoming.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it, okay?
But losing his Spider Sense is something that actually happened a few times in the comics. A few famous instances of this is when the Green Goblin and the Hobgoblin have taken away his powers for a moment, letting them land powerful punches right at Spidey. Ooh, it's gotta hurt. If Ned actually becomes Hobgoblin, this could easily happen, since Ned not only knows Peter's secret identity,
You're the Spider-Man from YouTube.
but there's no one in the world who would know him better than he does. He is the guy in the chair after all. So finding a way to nullify his Spider Sense and getting close enough to Peter would be a piece of cake.
Awesome.
In another moment where he loses his Spider Sense for a longer time, Spider-Man's stuck with trying to find a way to compensate for the power loss. After going through rigorous martial arts training to get his game on, he eventually decided to create a new version of his spider armor. The pretty cool looking Spider Armor Mark II was designed exactly to compensate for his new lack of spider sense. When he came face to face with the villain Massacre, who uses guns to attack, he decided to make the Spider Armor Mark II extra durable, so that each bullet would simply ricochet off of him. While this could be an interesting multiverse Spidey,
I'm sorry, you're saying there's a multiverse?
the MCU seems to hint at a magic-empowered one wearing a black and gold suit capable of shooting magical webs. Pew pew. Perhaps his spider sense could be artificially recreated through magic. Just like any powers, spider sense is like a muscle that can be trained. And who knows what kind of power could be unlocked with the proper training. This is shown more specifically in the comics of What If, Spider-Man vs. Wolverine #1, where he needs to face Wolverine after having accidentally killed Charlie, someone Wolverine had feelings for. After training in Russia with Nebo the Rook, Peter's spider sense becomes so OP that it's triggered by the mere action of someone thinking about harming him. While it's unlikely that we'll get to see this version of Spidey in the upcoming series What If, a Spider-Man Doctor Strange hybrid character has been confirmed in the latest trailer. And with the new magical suit being revealed, chances are the spider sense might be more magical than we think. For a long time, Spider-Man didn't have any particular fighting training in the comics. He would just really focus on his powers and sling his way through. The thing is, it's just not enough. Against formidable fighters like Spider-Woman or Shang-Chi, Spider-Man wouldn't be able to rely solely on his fighting skills, which are, to be honest, lacking. Peter's still not the best fighter in the MCU's Phase 4, and after seeing that Shang-Chi trailer, he clearly wouldn't stand a chance in a fistfight against him. And even less if, and we all hope he will, Shang-Chi gets his hands on the 10 rings. This is where his spider sense comes into play. Shang-Chi might be fast and strong, but when Spidey's spider sense is on max alert, it's really hard to lay a hand on him. Nevertheless, the boy starts thinking about exploring the world of combat training instead of just jumping into action. The spider sense ability is the one amazing power to have, but with great power comes great danger. It can actually be used against him. Here's how. During the comic book version of Civil War, Iron Man found a way to create a pheromone that would lead Spidey to look the wrong way, which allowed others to attack him from behind with ease. In another What If issue called The Punisher Killed Spider-Man, the Punisher came up with a way to use the spider sense against him, which led to a fake Doctor Octopus. And in the fake Doc Ock was a bomb waiting to explode. Spidey needs to stop relying so much on his spider sense, and just listen to his gut feeling a little bit more, or else he might end up splattered all over the walls. The Scarlet Spider is actually not a spider from another dimension. Created by scientist Miles Warren, Ben Reilly was actually a clone of Peter Parker. Since Ben was a perfect clone of Peter, he inherited every single superpowers he had, but somehow something made him a little bit better in some areas. The spider sense is one of them. It's widely known that Peter always struggled against Venom since he couldn't use his spider sense when fighting him. But in the case of Ben, this problem is not one. Since Ben was cloned before Peter ever wore the symbiote, the spider sense against them remained intact, making him the far superior Spidey. Spider-Man's Peter Tingle met with new challenges in Far From Home, but something tells me things are about to get a little bit more complex in No Way Home, as the new timelines might break or expand his amazing ability as Peter travels across worlds.